Hello everyone, welcome here at Your World or Mine. Show me yours and I'll show you mine. And today we have beautiful Helen here. She's from Cape Town, South Africa. And as you know, I'm from another planet. And I'm really curious, Helen, about your world. What is Cape Town like at the moment? I believe there was no water.
Well, we have loads of water again now. It's been bucketing down. It's been absolutely freezing, but I'm telling you, it is just so green and so beautiful here. I really feel blessed to be living in such a gorgeous part of the world.
Wow. But I'm really curious because I heard a lot of that since I'm visiting Earth about what Cape Town and its beautiful residents went through this process when they didn't have water. Now, if you have to look back now, what would you say did people in Cape Town, but moreover, all over the world for that matter, learn out of this experience?
You know, we will never be the same here in Cape Town again. And everybody is just saying that time and time again, because even though the water restrictions are no longer in place, when you go into public toilets, wherever that may be, everybody is still in the mindset to save water. So they will choose to use the hand sanitizer, for example. At the gyms, you've got bucket systems that are still going on. In homes, when you go to visit family and friends, bucket systems are still going on. You've got your little plastic container in the basin where you wash your hands and you save the water and you use that to flush the loo. So definitely the awareness of conserving water is in place now. And I think it's wonderful.
I just, in my body, I just feel it as you speak about it, like my cells start celebrating. It seems, from our perspective, that what's happening through that experience, which could have been traumatic for lots of people, because it creates a lot of fear. We won't have water. We cannot live without water. We can live without a lot of other things, but not water. And that now people live more consciously, like you say, and then continues. So it didn't just stop. So people didn't go back to the old behavior, but we're becoming more and more aware of our natural resources and the beauty of them, and that we have to conserve them and look after it, and that we can get into such situations where we won't have it. And the lifestyles we have to adapt to become more conscious of what we're doing overall. So it seems like it has a ripple effect. And what I picked up when you spoke about what I picked up as well was it brought people closer together in the communities, did it?
I saw that it most definitely did. Certainly, you know, in the areas where I was not only with my family and friends, but also work-wise, colleagues and clients of mine, you know, one client would be coming in, another would be going out, and they would be stopping and sharing their little stories of what they did today. Oh, you know what really worked? Or, oh, I got this system going. Or, no, you must try this because this works a little bit better. Whereas before, you would probably just be walking right past the stranger, but now strangers are talking and interacting much more easily than before. So yes, definitely that camaraderie was definitely felt and has continued, which I think is another blessing.
Mm. So it shows us that sometimes things happen, which we experience is very traumatic, but actually brings us closer together as communities and the way we live. Now, I've got an interesting question for you. You have little ones, don't you? Children,
Yes,
yes?
I've got a son, and I've also worked extensively with young children.
So what, if you now look back into this experience with the little ones, I'm really curious about the little ones. How did the children experience what was happening? Did they also go into fear like a lot of the adults and the communities, or how did they respond to what was happening, in your view?
Very interesting question. Very interesting. So what I observed was that the children were reacting depending on what the adult reactions were around them. So if mom and dad were really fearful and wide-eyed and talking about this problem all the time, those children were mimicking that. So now here in my treatment room where I'm sitting in right now, I have lots of children coming in, and you know, the young ones, we have that expression, from the mouths of babes, and so it was during this time that the children would be talking of things that are in the forefront of their mind, which is at the forefront of mom, dads, teachers, caregivers' minds. And there were those that came in that were very carefree, and when I spoke to them about water issues or even general other day-to-day issues, they were not fazed by it at all. They would talk to me about it, but it wasn't that they were being negatively affected. And I can definitely say that without a doubt, that had a large role was played in their life by the primary caregivers, the primary adults. And for some children, it's parents, and for some children, it's teachers or caregivers. So that was really interesting to see. And there, you know, there were some kids that were just, had consumed them actually. It was all that they were thinking about, and you could see that they were becoming physically ill and physically affected by the emotions connected with that. And I think that translates across the board, whether the issue is water or anything else. When we are in a specific emotional state around our children, they just pick up on that, and that is what their reference point becomes.
You know, as you speak, so many things comes up. So many. I'm so grateful you shared this, because the one thing that I first want to mention that came up was, if we now talk about little ones, and they're highly perceptive still, they're not so conditioned yet. And like you say, they take on what's in the external environment, some of them especially, because they are so sensitive. And if you think about the body consisting of so much percentage of water, and there's a lack of water, so the body is also responding to it on a subconscious level as well, by itself, especially with the little ones, because they're still so sensitive to what's going on around them. But it shows me the two sides. The side of fear and the influence it has on the little ones, and then fear-based behavior of the adults, the caregivers, the teachers, in which they expressed what was happening. And then there's the other side that's possible, where you become to live more with awareness. It's not fear-based. It doesn't need to be fear-based. It's actually possibility and love-based. That we're learning something from this. Yes, we don't, it's not nice to go through, but we're learning something from this. We become more aware of the beautiful things out there in nature that's providing us sustenance every day. So we don't take it for granted. So there's the two sides, and like you say, some of the little ones were like carefree. They spoke about, yes, but they were carefree. And it leads me now to this, it's actually a huge subject. Conscious parenting.
It is a huge subject.
So I'm curious, from my parents' perspective, I want to find out from you. Because little birdie on my shoulder told you have something to do with conscious parenting as well. And when we hear that word, those two words together, parenting by itself is one thing, because there's no manuals how to be a parent. You know, you go through school, you go through university, and there's no manual to teach you how to do that, or to guide you at least. You learn many, many different other things, maybe nonsensical things, but you never learn that. And every parent just does the best they could at a specific time, relating to their level of consciousness, their level of awareness, their level of sensitivity. So if you put the conscious with the parenting, it makes it even bigger. For some people, it might sound like a lot of responsibility, more responsibility, because parenting by itself can feel like a lot of responsibility. But I still have, again, the other side of, wow, it's actually something very light and something beautiful and precious. And your relationship with your children and theirs with you will change completely the more you go into this thing called conscious parenting. So now I would like to ask you, Helen, what is in your experience conscious parenting?
Thank you. So if we look at the word conscious, I understand it to be awareness, awake. So now if we put the word next to parenting and we see it in that context, so awake parenting or parenting with awareness, it becomes a little bit more easily understandable and definable. So we're not looking for perfect parenting at all. Conscious parenting is not about getting something right, because there is no right or wrong. We're dealing with real human, real. You know, when our children come along, they are here, and I've experienced this not only with my own child, but excuse me, even in Frog is visiting us today.
I love it when nature comes in.
Obviously, I needed to pause there.
Mm.
So even in my sessions with individual children, or when I used to teach groups of children, different mind-body techniques, and I always found that I was learning so much and becoming aware. And when I say learning, what I actually mean is learning about me, because that is the gift that parenting really, really provides us with. It's an awakening of who we as adults are, because we go through this metamorphosis of change throughout our developmental stages of growing up, teenage years, early adulthood. The brain only finishes developing at age 24. So really an official adult is after that final brain connections are complete. And then we start to try and discover ourselves as these adults, new beings almost in this world that is very different to when we were a child. And then we get given a child to make it more interesting in whatever level. It might not be, you know, our own child, but a child will cross our paths in some way. And so I always say to people, when a child gives you something, says something, and is there in your life in whatever way, no matter how big or small, take the time to listen and receive that information. So I've got a little story here of something that happened to me last week. My treatment room is on a farm in Cape Town. And on the farm, there is a family that stays. It's not my family. And there is a little girl. She is about 3 years old. So the one day, she comes outside the window of where I am working. She can reach up to just the windowsill area. But now I've got blinds on the window. I can actually show you here, these type of slatted blinds. So I can't see perfectly through, but I can see a little bit. So she comes there, and I'm busy getting ready for the next client, and, you know, not paying too much attention, but I say hello to her. Hello, how are you? No, I'm fine. What you doing? She asks me. No, I'm getting ready for my next visitor. And off she goes. And at the end of the day, I go to close the window and the blinds, and there I see this most beautiful purple flower sitting on the windowsill. Now, first of all, purple's my favorite color. But in that moment, I got these goosebumps, and I stopped and I looked at this flower, and it was just such a special moment for me to stop my day and all the rush that we're so used to being in. Okay, this ends, that happens, go there, do that, schedule, routine, deadline, commitment, etc. But this flower from this little girl that she had taken the time to put on my windowsill, if she could take the time to do that for me, I could certainly take a few seconds to stop, acknowledge this flower, and just be in that moment. Just pause for a little bit. And I tell you, that few seconds of pausing changed a lot. I suddenly wasn't so rush. Yes, I still had to get to pick up my son at a certain time, and I still was moving. But there was a little bit more of a calmness and a gentleness and a flowingness that was brought into my experience. And this is what parenting offers us if we allow it. If we allow these opportunities with our children to be awake and be aware of these little gifts that come along the way, that present us the opportunity to see something in a different way, to notice, you've been rushing so much, take a moment, take a breather, whatever it might be. It can sometimes be a huge mirror. We know children are our mirrors, and for me, that is really what conscious parenting is about. Being conscious and awake to what is being reflected to you of yourself, and then choosing to, do I want to use this opportunity to learn more about myself, to maybe make a change or not? So it can be either or. You can choose, what, I do know and I can see for whatever reason that I am irritable right now, but I feel like staying there and I'm going to stay there. That is a conscious choice, as opposed to being irritable, but we're not even aware of it. So again, it's not perfect. We're not looking for perfect. We want to be awake and aware individuals with our children.
Well, that's beautiful. As you're sharing that, what immediately comes up to me, which is one of our passions, is human potential. It's impossible to notice human potential and to nurture it and to guide it and to stimulate it when we're not in the present moment. We cannot see it if we, like you said, in this rush because of this busyness of all the, I wouldn't even say distractions, but all the things that's calling for our attention. It creates a chaotic whirlpool. In those moments, it's impossible for us to reflect back to these beautiful little ones, their own. So when we speak about reflection, is we cannot then reflect back to them their human potential.
Yes. And that is key, because as you're using the word reflect, what is happening on a biological and a scientific perspective is those mirror neurons in the brain are being activated. And especially with children under 7, it's 100% activated. So even though mom might put a smile on her face because she doesn't want to show her child or children her heartache inside, the child is feeling it 100%. So we can actually assist the situation and our children more by being authentic to ourselves. And I'm not condoning and saying we go and share all information about our lives to our young children, because they're not ready for all of that, and they are in a very different space. They're in the world of doing. They're not in the world of thinking, but they do feel. So if we ask ourselves the question, do we want our children to be feeling what we're feeling right now? And if you are feeling something that you would term as negative, and I use that term loosely, but just to have some concept here, the chances are most parents are going to say, no, I don't want my child to feel that, which is why we put on this facade and the mask to protect. But actually, the opposite is happening, because we're teaching our children, even when you're feeling hurt or upset inside, you need to put on a mask. This is what we do. And so we start to train them in the way that we don't want them to be. And it's the strangest thing, but it often keeps on continuing from generation to generation. It's many times how our parents raised us. They were doing the best that they could, but we have these patterns in ourselves now. But when we become consciously awake and aware of these possible patterns that exist, we can start to notice them in ourselves. And that awareness is half of the journey to the transformation, because when you're aware of it, then you can do something about it. You know, you can then say, okay, I don't want my child to go through life having, let's say, low self-worth, and that's what I'm feeling at the moment, but I'm going to put on this extra confident exterior to make up for that. Well, when you become aware of your own inner feelings, then you can start to ask the questions, what do I need to do to transform that? Do I want to continue feeling this? Do I want to continue thinking in this way? Is it helping me? Is it benefiting my life and those around me? Or would there be a preferred feeling or state of mind that I would like to be in that could help me to fulfill my dreams? Remember, when you are fulfilling your dreams, you are teaching and showing your children how to fulfill theirs. And so often we as parents feel guilty. Now, I mustn't work as a mom, or I mustn't do this, or I mustn't do that, or I've got to do this. All these shoulds or should nots. Whereas what our children are needing from us is often the opposite of what we think. First of all, they're needing more than money from us. As we know, they're needing time. So instead of, working to buy them extra ABCDs, what about maybe minimizing and taking off 1 hour a day to spend more time with your child and have the one-on-one interaction? And as adults, sometimes it's difficult for us to comprehend that. No, but they must have this to have a good life and have all these experiences. But it has been proven time and time again through scientific research, human behavior specialists, that the most beneficial life learning happens from parents, and then siblings, and then caregivers, teachers, etc. But primarily when the parent gets on the floor and plays with the child learns through play. They learn how to problem solve, interact, hold their body. They learn how to continue, persist. There are just so many different opportunities that you are teaching the child just by being in that space with them. So that really is key cornerstone foundation for developmental phase of any child, is be with your child. So if there is one message that I can stress today, it's be with your child.
That's most beautiful. My body's responding to it once again. And it's very interesting that when you spoke about it now, that conscious parenting focuses not only on the parenting side, it's on the beingness side of the parent, the living side, like you expressed, your own experiences, your own feelings. And don't judge it as right or wrong. It simply is. But like you say, when we become aware of it, we can do something about it, which is wonderful. I have so many questions for you now. It raises for me immediately the negative affirmation that a young child receives, that goes through for the rest of their lives, into adulthood, into old age, is this negative affirmations of, I know scientific research also showed that the average 3-year-old hears the word no, for example, in all its different expressions 400 times a day. Don't do that. You talked about the shoots in the woods. Don't do that. And then we, in the workplace, we are troubled by the fact that some people just postpone things. There's nothing about urgency for them. There's a lot of insecurity. Now, regardless of the educational backgrounds, they don't. Now, we don't like to use those words, but the word performance, for example, they just don't bring their contribution is a better word. Their contribution is not what it can be. But if I was like 3 years old and I heard the word no in all its different expressions 400 times a day, it's going to make me very fearful of life. I'm going to be terrified inside my little body, in my subconscious mind. Is all these coping mechanisms and protection mechanisms starts going to form in my psyche. Because this is a dangerous place. If you live if your perception is that this world is a dangerous place, where you just can't do things because it's no, negative affirmation, how can you actually ever live your potential? Your body will naturally grow because that's what it does naturally, but on an emotional level, on a spiritual level, and it also will work through into your body's reactions, responses into the world, and your mental development. You'll be very fearful of everything and everything around you. That will make you very cynic. It will make you very intolerant of things. So a lot of the things that we experience in the world currently can be reflected back to that even. Insecurity of the uncertainty of the future, those type of things, these negative affirmations. But I want to take it even back to birth. Now, I heard a little birdie told me about this beautiful experience called birthing into being. And I had the opportunity myself during one of my visits here on this beautiful planet to have the most extraordinary experience about birthing into being. Can you share with us a little bit more about what that is about?
Yes, I'd love to. Thank you so much. So birth into being works with all of what you have just been discussing here so aptly, and looking at the programming in the subconscious brain. So our formative years, as well as preconception, and even much further down, forefathers' time, we're talking, we receive these patterns, just like our DNA. We receive these emotional patterns into our body as well, and we are birthed with them. And that starts to form when we are already in the womb, in the subconscious. It starts to set in, and it's completely set by the time that we are 7. So in our conscious mind, we would have a certain idea of things, let's say in our adulthood. Let's say that we have a desire to achieve a certain goal, whatever it might be. It might be in your career, it might be food-wise, it might be about your body, it might be about relationships, it could be anything. And you are so driven to achieve or acquire something, but yet you just cannot get there. You keep on going back to old habits, no matter how many times you reset your goal or reframe it. Now, why is that? That takes us back to these negative affirmations that you were talking about that were set specifically actually in the limbic brain, which is part of the subconscious brain, where all our emotional triggers come along. So an obvious example is a dog scares one when one is a child. Then the dog could be a trigger further on in life, but it goes further than that. If you look at other experiences, sensory experiences in that moment of the frightful dog experience, you could have specific colors, specific sounds, specific smells, which you do not link consciously with that experience. But for some reason, you cannot stand the smell of frying oil, let's say. And it just so happened that at that time was connected with that experience. And so it creates the same experience, the same emotional reaction in the body every time you smell frying oil, and you cannot figure out why. So unless one goes to reprogram what we are actually desiring, and I'm going to specify that a little bit more, we're just going to have those same triggers being pushed and the same reactions happening again and again and again. And the majority of these are happening actually in the first 3 years of life. Even more so at birth, and mostly so with the first breath that we take. What was your first breath like? Was it a breath taken filled with fear because mom is lying on the table and she is going through pain, or she is feeling distraught, or maybe her and dad have had an upset and now this is also playing on her mind? There are so many different it's like a wave, so many different weavings that are happening around us when we are born, and that first breath brings them all into the body on a cellular level. So it's no good, it's not going to be helpful for parents at this point to go, oh my word, this was happening when I gave birth, and yes, I was feeling like that. And it's not going to help to think I could have and I should have and start feeling guilty. It happened, it's done. What can we do from here on? And the good news is, with epigenetics, we can remold the brain to have the program in it that we want. And this is what the Birth into Being methodology offers. One of the processes, very gentle and beautiful, but it works with the power of using the imagination. Now, the brain treats the imagination as reality. So when we're imagining something, it's like when we're watching a movie. We know it's not real, but we laugh or we cry, but it's not real. But our brain and our body and our heart perceives it as real. And likewise with the imagination, it's super powerful. So we use the imagination to recreate specific experiences, one of them being our birth experience. And when we recreate that vividly in our imagination, combining that with very specific breathing techniques, combining that with specific points on the body that we run and that we press, meridians that we're flowing in a specific way, we bring in very therapeutic smells as well. And then other sensory elements. So we're combining all the senses into that experience. It goes deep into the cellular system and into the nervous system, so that we start responding to our everyday experience of breathing in a different way. Because if you have had a traumatic experience with that first breath of life, guess what? Every breath thereafter is going to be connected with that first one. So that is why it's vital that we start this reprogramming with the first breath. And from there, we take it into developing it further and further, and more reprogramming and more different resetting of the subconscious areas of the brain. But what amazes me time and time again is that it happens so easily. You know, it's not a huge operation that we have to go through. It's a maximum of a 2-hour process that one could do in a facilitation. So I do facilitate the process, either here in Cape Town, or I do some in Johannesburg as well. But you can also do it on your own, which is why I've got the download version. And when you have these different options of experiencing this as well, it gives you different options of taking your reprogramming to a deeper level. And what I mean by this is you're going to need to do it more than once. If you think of how entrenched Your patterns are in your life right now, and they've been there for years. It's repetition. So you need to keep repeating and retraining your mind through this process to the point that eventually you don't need to, because that is now what the brain returns to as its memory. Yes, your original memory is still there. So it's not that you will forget your own birth or your own childhood at all, but you are just programming in what is going to be beneficial for you to live the life that you desire right now, to be the conscious individual, the conscious parent that you would like, so that you can achieve your dreams and follow your life's purpose. Because how many of us can really say, I'm following my purpose 100% and living my life optimally? Majority of us, we might have certain areas, but I believe we can have full optimum 100% experience here on earth. And it's now up to us. It's our choice.
There's two interesting things that I want to ask you. So firstly, from what you just shared, and me having seen what it can, just watching a birth coming to somebody who's conscious, the process of the birthing into being, of knowing, being aware of what's happening with the little one through this process, that you can come into the world with ecstasy, your mom in ecstasy, she's got an orgasm while you come into the world. Imagine that. You coming into the world, your mom has an orgasm. Incredible. Well, I've watched a video of this birthing into being methodology, everyone, and I can tell you, just going through it myself again, just watching it, other little ones coming through in that way into the world, into such a conscious way, is amazing. So there's two things that I want to ask you. Can this methodology be done with younger children, with children as well, or is it just for adults, firstly? And then it sounds to me that it's an amazing journey to go through before you become pregnant. So both parents, not only the mom, both parents, before you become pregnant, while you're pregnant, what is the possibilities? What would you recommend?
Thank you, Hannelie. Yes, absolutely. This methodology was advised specifically for birthing moms in Russia at the specific time, because the birthing houses in Russia many moons ago were unfortunately very dramatic and traumatic. And there was a time, a revolution, where pregnant moms were feeling that there's got to be a different way to birthing. And so with the help of various individuals to create an experience and essentially release your own birth trauma. Because if you haven't released your own birth trauma, you're going to be repeating it in some way or other. And when I say release, you can do that through either an actual physical, emotional, mental release, or a reprogramming, such as the experience that I described to you earlier. Mm-hmm. So ideally, we want pregnant moms to, yes, as you said, do this experience with their partner, even if they're no longer with the dad. The dad can do it on his own. They don't have to be together. But the child is linked 100% to both mom and dad. So for the benefit of the child, if nothing else, it is going to be an amazing experience for that child to come into this world having two parents that are awake and conscious and aware, and that have reprogrammed that limbic imprint from their birth. So for the mom, we prefer it to happen either pre-pregnancy or first or second trimester. Why? Because in the third trimester, the mom will go into a natural reptilian brain state. So she is going into survival mode. If she needs to, like if we see in the animal kingdom as well, it's fight or flight when the baby needs to come. The third trimester, we are focused on getting the room ready. We are so in baby brain. And we often see this with moms who are in that last few weeks or last 2 or 3 months, and they sometimes might become a little bit forgetful or not themselves. It's totally normal and it's expected. So to do a process in this time, if you haven't had an opportunity, or let's say you're in third trimester now and you're watching this, it can be done, but please, it needs to be done with a facilitator. And even if, for example, you can't find a facilitator in your region where you are, I can do it with you over Skype. So preferred choice, we would obviously do a one-on-one, but if not, there are other options and ways of doing it and making this happen. So yes, we want this to be happening before the birth, because it will change the birthing experience, not only for the baby, but for mom as well. Because as you mentioned, you can have an orgasm at birthing. It's not this traumatic experience. You know, when I was a young child, I didn't want to have a baby because I saw a video of this woman screaming, blood everywhere. That encoded and programmed into my brain that birth was painful. It was something to be fearful of. Now, with the birthing into being processed with young children, there's 2 ways of doing it. The video that you watched, Hannelie, for example, that is a beautiful way to share life with young children. So there was a mom who had a traumatic experience with her young child, a birthing experience. And this little girl, at the age of 3 and 4, she couldn't be around anybody except her mom. And when I say anybody, I mean anybody. It was extreme fear. And it was the way that she came out into the world. And also, her mom had gone through a traumatic experience of, she needed money. And she let herself be used for experiments and experiences for training gynecologists. So she was having exploration in her vagina many times while the baby was still inside. So this was part and parcel of the fear of this little girl. The mom then was introduced to Birth into Being, and she played the video while this little girl was 4 years old. And the first time she played it and her daughter saw it, the daughter apparently just sat mesmerized in front of the screen, watching how these moms were delivering their babies in water, at the seaside, in their baths at home. They were joyful, they were relaxed. It's not to say that there wasn't pain, but the pain was transformed into something that was magnificent, and it was powerful. The women came into their power, into that birthing experience. And this little girl watched it. And the next day she asked her mom to watch it again. And that continued for approximately 60 to 65 days. And then one day, the little girl said to her mom, I don't need to watch that anymore. I'm done. That is how I was born, Mommy. The process was complete. She had been transformed and rewired her subconscious. But look at how much she needed at that young age. So we can understand for us, we need to repeat these processes quite a few times. And we need to be gentle with ourselves in understanding that it is going to take a while. But let's start with that first step on the journey. And then just to come back quickly to add further to your question about can we use this process with young children. So as you saw, showing the video is one way, but you can use the actual limbic imprint recoding process for a young child. I used it with my son. I had a cesarean and he went through a traumatic experience. And I used it when he was asleep, when he was about between 6 and 7 years of age. This is when I was introduced to birth and to be. And it wasn't something that I could use with him while he was awake, because I knew he was very much aware, but that 7-year-old age, it's the time when the ego is starting to waken up. And he would be focusing too much consciously on the words in the process. And I knew it was important for him to have a subconscious experience. So I did and facilitated the process for him while he was asleep. And I just spoke very softly through it, and I watched how he squirmed and, you know, his different facial expressions. He never woke up. I did it for 3 nights. And the reason that I did it was my son never called me mom. And I didn't know why, but I had a feeling it was something to do with this birthing experience that was very traumatic. And he was screaming, and the nurses took him away, and I wanted him brought back, and they wouldn't, because they were insisting that I had to sleep. And my heart was torn hearing my son scream, and I couldn't get up. I was in such pain, and I was under many drugs at that time. So yeah, it was traumatic for both of us. And then when he started to speak and he wasn't calling me mommy, you can imagine how I felt. You know, it was, what's happening here? But I knew it was something subconscious. After doing this process with him for 3 nights in a row, the 4th morning he woke up, and without a blink of an eye, morning mommy, and off we went. And we just started calling me mom. It was, I mean, my jaw just dropped. I couldn't believe it. Some switch had been turned. And to this day, he's 12 now, I'm mom, and there's no problem. So these little miracles that come through this process, the other benefits that we get are just indescribable. And all I can say is you have to experience it to experience it.
Yeah, I think for an adult, I can vouch for that. You have to experience yourself first. And yes, I'm so grateful that you actually talked about cesarean birth, because that was going to be my next question. For anyone who's being birthed through a cesarean, for example, and also for moms who gave birth through cesareans, because today it seems like it's a fashion. It's not necessarily for health reasons these days that it's done. So that I would just have been seeing that video, for example, by itself, the absolute impact it had on me personally, because I was born with an umbilical cord around my neck. So when you were speaking about the breathing, somebody mustn't have put their hands around my neck. I would have freaked out till I was in my late 40s. Don't do it to me. And when I watched that movie, everyone, it was the mode, and my cells now respond to it again, even on a cellular level. That, and I feel, and when you were speaking about this, well, my whole mind was expanding. It was expanding. An expansive, explosive feeling, but not a bad, chaotic feeling, just like a release. Just you speaking about it. So my body's responding without me even thinking of that movie. There was a lot of things that happened with me personally when I watched that movie. Some connections were made on different levels that I could pick up straight away on a conscious level without needing to explain it. It was like my limbic system, everything was just working together suddenly. Most extraordinary experience, and I would, if I can recommend it to anyone, watch this movie. Get into contact with Helen. This work is soul work. This work is sacred. It changes our lives completely. So Helen, I'm curious about something behind you besides this beautiful conscious parenting, working with the younger ones, um, birthing into being. There's so many facets to it that I could just tell you, everybody, just watch it, be with it, connect with Helen. This is powerful work. But I was being curious all the time. My imagination was going. We talked about the imagination earlier. About there's a visual behind you. What is that about?
So this is the Bach flower remedy chart. So you might have heard before of rescue remedy. So rescue remedy, it usually comes in a little bottle like that. You would find it at the pharmacy or health store. And this is comprised of 5 specific Bach flowers, actually. Now, the full Bach remedy mix, there are 38 of them. And each one works with different emotions. So they are different. I'm going to show you some cards now. These are just pictures of some of the different flowers. These are hand-drawn. Some of the different flowers that are used in the Bach range. So they are really gentle, but oh so powerful. Now you will know what I mean if you've used a rescue remedy before, and you usually use it in times when there's a shock or a trauma or something has jolted us, and it helps to calm us. So now if you can imagine how effectively that works for those emotions, you can understand how effectively the other remedies work for different emotions. Let's say you need help with your confidence of giving birth successfully, whatever it might be. Let's say you're moving home, or even with birthing, there is a huge transformation that happens not only in the body, but in the whole family dynamic. So there, a wonderful remedy is walnut, because it helps us to cope with the change. Sometimes when we're feeling a little bit critical, maybe of ourselves, or we could have done that better, or even of others, we use quite an aptly named a tincture called Beach. It's spelled B-E-C-H, but we can pronounce it slightly differently as well. If we're self-conscious, and sometimes, you know, pregnant moms do, as they get on, although we on the outside, we look at these beautiful beings and see them as glowing, but sometimes one doesn't always feel that way when you're pregnant. So crab apple, very strange sounding flower, but it works beautifully for that. So it's very much linked, these Bach flower remedies, with, as you said, the soul work or the sacred work. Because when you are doing transformational work and you use these remedies as a support, they help you to smooth off those edges. It doesn't do the journey for you. It doesn't do the work for you. You've still got to go there, but it certainly makes it that just a little bit more easier. It's a support. So what happens if somebody comes to me either for a specific session, or sometimes I'll just have people email me and say, I want to have a Skype session, for example, to find out which Bach remedies I need. Or sometimes people just email me and they tell me what they are busy feeling and experiencing in life at the moment. And then I will work through the different options that there are. As you can see on the chart behind me, there are different colors, different regions, that the remedies all fall into a region of loneliness, a region of sensitivity, heightened emotion, etc., etc. So we really want to get to the root of, why are you feeling angry? Yes, I can give you Holly for feeling angry, but are you really, is that the root of it? Is anger really the root, or is there another reason? And when we get to that reason, then we find out, okay, what would be the most beneficial remedy linked there? We choose 7 mixtures to support you right now, and we make up a personalized bottle. And then I post to the people if they're in South Africa. If they're overseas, then they go and they get the mixtures. It's quite readily available in Europe and in America. So, you know, just in everyday life, I continue to use these remedies for myself every day. And now and again, there will be a day that I'm just frantic and I totally forget. And at the end of the day, I'm thinking, why am I feeling like this? And why I'm usually quite methodical or whatever it might be, or I'm usually quite calm. Why was I not feeling that? I didn't have my Bach flower mix today. So I can say from first-hand experience and from all my hundreds of clients as well, that if there is one go-to for 90% of the people that I work with, it's the Bach flower remedy. And if you haven't tried, please do. It's a wonderful support for any time in life, but yes, certainly for parenting and pregnancy and birthing time as well.
And exam time.
Yes.
Instead of, it's all natural, isn't it?
So 100% natural. It's actually frequency based, which means it's not chemically based. So even if you're on very strong medication, you can still take this because it doesn't react in the body frequently. With the chemically, it reacts around the body. Even though we're taking it internally, it reacts with the frequency. But talking of that, you can also use it topically. So let's say you've got a pain somewhere on a specific muscle. You can put it on that particular muscle and let that absorb there. And of course, because it's 100% natural, you can use it for babies. If they've got colic, you can use it for young children. They're feeling miserable or they're going through a bit of an otherwise stage. It works beautifully.
For the terrible twos.
Yes.
Oh, Helen, this is such a rich experience and conversation. And I'd really like to invite everybody to reach out to Helen. We're going to leave her details for you afterwards. Helen's also written a book. We're going to share about that. Yeah, you can show us, please. 150 inspiring educational activities for 2 to 7-year-olds. Wow. Amazing. We will share the link to that as well, that you can get information about that, which even if you're not a parent yet, if you go into deciding to become a parent or it's happening to you, reach out to Helen. She's got a bundle of wisdom there to share between all the things we discussed today. It's like a fountain of limbic joy. It's a fountain of limbic joy. It's the only way I can express it in this moment. So Helen, I would like to ask you in closing, if you have a message for our younger ones, the ones who came more recently, who's on the edge of going into what we don't even like that word, adulthood, but like you said, you have to start all over again when you left school, you graduated, you start working, you have to start all over again to find your place into the world, which is on all these levels. Emotional experience, it's a mental experience, it's a very physical experience, it's a spiritual experience as well. It's a new life starting. What message would you leave for the ones who came more recently, who's on the edge of that or is already in that but still feel very insecure of how to find their place? Yeah, it's another birthing into being again.
Absolutely, yes. So that word is conscious. Start awakening your consciousness and you can do that by asking questions of yourself, of your inner self every day. And it doesn't need to be deep questions. It can be something very straightforward. So let's say you're needing to get direction about something, or you're grappling with a certain problem at work or at home, and you need some help, some guidance, some answers. You know exactly what you need to do, and you can start tapping into your all answering self, your all knowing self, by practice. So I invite you to have a connection every day with your higher self by spending just 5 minutes of quiet time. And quiet time is really about going in time, closing your eyes, breathing deeply, becoming aware of how different areas of your body is feeling, and then just spending some time noticing how you're breathing. And when you are really calm and centered, then ask yourself the question that you need answered right now. Should I take this job or not? Can be as straightforward as that. Is this job going to benefit me 100%? Now, that's a really good question, because should I take the job? Yes, it might be beneficial to you, but it might not. But when you start stretching the question a little bit more and adding actual time frames or measurements on it, like 100%, will this be 100% beneficial for me financially? Now you're taking it even further. And will it help me to learn and grow 100% in my career? And then you just sit and you just see what comes into your mind, and you don't judge it. You just let it come. And when you're done, you can write down some answers, and the next day you do the same thing. You can even ask that question before going to sleep, and when you wake up, whatever has come to you in your dreams, you write down, even if it doesn't make sense. You then go back to your answers a week or two later, if you have the time. Sometimes we need to get those answers straight away, then you deal with it straight away. But if you have time to let it sit and you go back, because your perspective 2 weeks later will be a different perspective. And this is all how we cultivate our awareness and our way of being conscious with ourselves and in the world. So thank you so much, Hannelie, for this opportunity.
Oh, thank you, Helen, and everyone. I don't have enough words to express my gratitude to Helen today for sharing this with all of us. And like I said before, reach out to her. There's so many different aspects to this that will increase your well-being on so many levels. And our emotions is not a bad thing. Our feelings are not a bad thing. They're just there. And we have different ways of dealing with them and processing them, moreover. And Helen has a bunch of stuff that can help you with that, whatever position, whatever your situation currently is. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. And thank you, Helen, for being with us today. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.